community. Today, sharing an album that I enjoy. It's Easter, so I thought I would celebrate with a band that had a big hit a few years ago with Monster. The band is Skillet. There's the this is the album that has Monster on it. The secret side of me, I never let you see. I keep it caged, but so some of you might have recognized that song. This is the album I wanted to review because this album it doesn't get as much recognition. This is the best Skillet album, in my humble opinion. This is a phenomenal album. Skillet, who is a Christian rock band, all right? Now, a lot of people didn't know that because this song, right? That song Monster was a hit. I think I looked it up on Spotify. It has like 412 million listens, something like that. So, by far their biggest hit is on this album. But this album is not as good as a whole album as this album is. This album is amazing. Some bands and from the Christian genre crossover and make it big, and most don't. Like most religious music, or it's just weird that that's a genre, right? Christian rock, and I get it, right? Like I get that it's a genre for a reason, but you know, there's bands like Switchfoot, POD, MXPX. These are all bands considered, you know, Christian music. Evanescence on a Christian label. I don't really believe in Christian music, all right? Because it's more of a subject matter than it is a genre. You know what I'm saying? Like jazz is a different genre than rock and roll. But Christian rock, for example, is rock. So it's just one of those weird things. It just doesn't make sense to me. And there's a lot of, quote, secular music that have songs, bands that have songs about God, right? Or that may be Christians, or, you know, part of another religion, and, you know, you don't call them the, I don't know, New Age singers, or, you know, I want to listen to some Muslim music today. You know, it's just weird that Christian rock is a genre. Christian or not, whatever you are, if you're a metal fan, this is amazing. And part of this is the attitude of Mr. Cooper or whoever creatively wrote these songs and put this together. This album is their most raw, and as far as the lyrics and the message of it, it's less like it is now with Skillet, to be honest. This is raw, like, emotional stuff. For example, that is Collide. And I love the way that they bring strings into metal and have it together. Like, it's not an added on thing, you know? Like some metal bands like Metallica did some of these shows with the San Francisco Philharmonic or whatever. You know. No, like this is written with strings, right? Like yeah. What you got, what you want, what you need. They got a guy with a cello that comes on stage and plays metal with the band. It's awesome. Violins, things like that. The strings are brought into the track list is Forsaken. It's number 1. Again, like it's honest. Like for me, this is an honest album, and that song starting out the album, like that's not something you hear a lot of, you know, Christian-y rock bands start with a song called Savior is the next song, and it's not like super fluffy Jesus. It's raw, you know. Can I be your savior? Everything's gonna everything's going to crash and break. I know. A little more obsession, fingernails, imperfection. There's another song. That's a song that hit me personally going through some of the stuff I was going through at the time. 2004 is when this album came out. There's kind of an attitude in popular Christianity that, you know, you got to fake it and pretend. Like, don't be vulnerable. Like, don't show the world that you've got imperfection, right? Because then you might not be accepted into the group. That's how I felt, honestly, growing up in it. And, you know, you just kind of learn to fake it. And then you have this voice in your head that's constantly... Can I be somebody else for all the times I hate myself? 5 seconds at a time, people. That's how it goes. We all have an inner critic, right? That's in our head, that's kind of like pointing out all our flaws. And, you know, fear is a thing because we evolved in such a way that you got to watch out for the saber-toothed tiger, right? Our ancestors had to be head on a swivel most of the time. I heard a evolutionary psychologist talking about this stuff. It's funny I'm speaking of evolution when I'm reviewing a Christian album, but hold on, there's a thing to say about that as well. But evolutionary biologist talking about how the negative stuff, the bad things that happen in our life, that voice in our head that constantly tells us we're garbage, that stuff sticks to us like Velcro. It imprints on our emotions, like we feel it, all right? The positive, the good stuff, you know, that whole idea of stop and smell the roses, that takes about 20 seconds, 15 to 20 seconds to stop and ruminate on it, to stop and think about it before it imprints on us emotionally, right? It's like gratitude's a big thing with me, being grateful for the life you have and the things you have and the people in your life, you know, and instead of constantly always wanting, I need that out there. Because that out there feels like you buy something new, you get a new record or something, it feels good for a minute, doesn't it? It feels great to buy stuff. I know this. You searching through and finding something that you haven't had for a while or seen, or a record or a CD that, oh, I love that CD. I got this for $1, by the way, at Silver Platters. Like that gives us that hit of dopamine and we're like, oh, that's awesome. But the stuff we already got, again, it takes time to imprint on us emotionally. I tend to be a guy who believes in evolution. Like I'm not a certainty addict about it. All right, I wasn't there when everything happened. But the book of Genesis is steeped in metaphor. The language that Genesis is written in is a metaphoric language. So I tend to want to lean towards the fact that we did evolve from primates and that the book of Genesis is kind of like, you know, speaking baby talk to an ancient civilization. Like, it's metaphor. This is how, do I believe a snake came down from a tree and went, hey, taste this apple, it's delicious? No, I think that's metaphor. Just like this piece of art is, right? But that's just me. It's just my opinion. It's a quote by C.S. Lewis I heard about earlier, you know, in his conversion. He said, I believe that the book of Genesis is true, and I also believe that evolution is true, right? I have a friend that wrote a book about his life, and it's an allegory, it's a story, it's a piece of fiction, but it is his emotional journey with God. And he said it's fiction, but it's true, right? Jesus spoke in parables most of the time. The disciples would ask him like a question, like, you want a yes or no answer out of, and he would tell a story like, well, there was a donkey and a horse and a wine press, right? Like he parables. this is how we communicate emotionally, relationally. Love this album. Under My Skin is another great song. Energy, Cycle Down. It just seems like, and John Cooper's got an amazing voice for a metal singer. Like, he's got this kind of raspy, gravelly, but he can hit the notes and he can bring it up really well. He's just an amazing singer. But as an artist, the who wrote this music at the time that they did, really curious about what they were going through. Because again, I believe this is the best work of this band. And I believe their newer stuff, this was a few years ago, and this is still pretty raw and great. But some of their newer stuff, it just gets into this, like, in my opinion, again, this is just my opinion, me reviewing, if I have any thing to say about Skillet, just a kind of prosperity, like you're going to make your dreams come true and, you know, embrace your destiny and stuff like that, which is fine. You know, it's good to have a purpose in life. It's good to have dreams and reach for something, right? I'm doing okay for an ex-junkie, drug addict, high school dropout, right? I aimed for the stars. I hit the broadside of a barn, and I'll count that as a win, rather than aiming for the broadside of a barn and hitting a mud puddle. So there's something to, you know, this having a dream and reaching for the, you know, oh, I want my destiny and all that. Great. I vote yes, that's fine. But if and when, for most of us, it doesn't happen, you know, people get really depressed and angry inside and feeling like the world has failed them.
We've all been raised on television to believe that one day we'd all be millionaires and movie gods and rock stars, but we won't. We're slowly learning that fact. And we're very, very pissed off.
Again, American Idol's a great example. If you've ever seen the auditions on that show, and I'm not, you know, some of it's just, some of the early shows especially, they really ripped into people, you know, but some people just can't sing. As much as they desire for that to be their dream and they know that they're going to be a big singer and a star, it's not always going to happen for everyone. And so some of that message that a lot of Christian culture puts out there is, you can achieve your dreams, do anything. It's not just Christian culture. It's, you know, it's culture. It's a lot of culture, but Christian culture especially. Like, God wants you to be healthy and wealthy, and if you're not, then you must be sinning, because that's where a lot of people land. And it's just, yeah, it's, and another thing is, all of the abuse and scandals and stuff that has happened can lead people like myself. My church, Mars Hill Church, huge, grew really fast. Mark Driscoll became a figurehead of popular Christianity back in the day, and the whole thing is just gone. Like, the church dissolved in a couple of months, and the whole thing surrounded this man, cult of personality and all that. So it leaves a lot of people dismayed and like, well, how could this happen, right? Like, we were doing Jesus the right way. At least we all believed it, you know, here in Seattle. Deconstruction is a thing. I would also say that for a lot of people who struggle with addiction and self-destructive behavior, you got to deconstruct your belief systems. You do, because some of that Christian-y stuff, some of that, again, that critic in your head that you may believe is God. No. Again, I've talked about this in my ghost review, but the word Satan actually means accuser of the brethren. Like, that is the translation of that word, the original word. So, love this album. Not trying to preach at you, but again, here's John Cooper.
I don't hate those deconstructed Christians. I pray for their repentance. But listen, they have divorced themselves from God, and they want to take as many of you people as they can. And it is time for us and your generation to declare war on this idolatrous deconstruction Christian movement. They are ripping all of our kids off.
So this went kind of viral, you know, and Cooper like talking about declaring war on deconstruction. And what does that even mean, right? How does he define deconstruction? Because another great album that Skillet did that followed up this album was Comatose. This is the album cover for Comatose, and I don't know, but it seems to me that if you looked up deconstruction in the dictionary, the illustration would be that image, right? Like that looks like a dude who's, right, deconstructed, standing there with a big plug going, where do I plug this in? Because for a lot of folks, where they've been plugged in before has left them questioning their faith. That's another song that's on this record. Something deep inside that keeps my faith alive. And that's so true. That's, for me, that's a thing. Like, I still have this deep faith, even though I'm a very different Christian than I was 10 years ago. A very different Christian. Just from my own life experience, from the things I've been through, and from the healing that I've chose to embrace. All right, and that's what I got. So yeah, if you get a chance, pick up this album or put it in your streaming stuff. Especially if you're a metal fan, it's just rock and roll. I was so excited. I went to Silver Platters and I picked up this album. Kind of a Good Friday sort of album. 3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge. Speaking of, you know, Christian culture and growing up in some of that, this song, I'm Not Okay, I Promise, came out at a time when, you know, it just hit me really hard, like that song. I wasn't okay. And it was a catalyst to some of my healing. Realizing that, you know, just spinning plates. I wasn't okay inside, and I needed to stop doing life the way I was doing it because it was harmful. This was part of that album. Then I asked, because it was sort of the same, you know, time, the same attitude, the same mark on my character at the time, so to speak, God speaking to me through My Chemical Romance, and then Skillets Collide. I asked if they had this record, and he goes, let me look it up on the computer. And so he looks it up. The guy at Silver Platters looks it up on the computer, and he finds it, and he goes, yeah, I have it, but it's in a bunch of boxes in the back. It's like there's like all the stack of boxes. It's in there, and I'm like, oh, cool. And I go, can you look for me? I go, how much is it? He goes, it's $1. So, and sure enough, he went back there and he found it. He found the Skillet CD, and it's just like a brand new. It didn't even look like it had been played, but it was used. Check out my Skillet shirt. It's a little bit, the neck, like it's not lined up properly, but it's still cool. It was like the last shirt we went to the concert, and this was the last Skillet shirt like this that they had. They had like hoodies and stuff like that were crazy expensive. Their merch, they were really cool, like a skull and a gun, you know, like smoke coming out of the barrel, and it was like a skull, you know. It's really cool merch, but I wasn't going to pay like $75 for a hoodie. It just wasn't going to happen. I'm going to pay like $20 for this shirt. Comatose. So, again, speaking of strings with the band, and just sharing my love of Skillet, some of my life experience and how the band affected me. Maybe a My Chemical Romance review later, but there you go. Thanks for watching, and sipping on my fizzy water. So we're halfway through alcohol-free April, which has been hard. My wife and I were like, I want a beer today because it was just so nice out. We had some sunshine and I mowed the lawn, and a beer would have sounded really good, huh? Oh yeah, I got speakers today too. That's right. Check these out. Found those on Facebook Marketplace for $40, and they sound amazing. Like the system here sounds way better. You don't have to break the bank to have a decent system, you know. You just gotta kind of investigate and get lucky, be blessed. The audiophile angels were watching over us today, and we scored these speakers for $40. Bose, nice Bose speakers. They sound great. Thanks for watching. Hit the thumbs up button, or don't. Like this video, or don't. But I would appreciate it if you like it. If you could do the ritual of just liking, you know, kind of like flipping a record over, pushing a play button, I don't know. The like button, and subscribe if you're new. Why not? What else is going on? I made all this for you. There's more. I'll be back. Excuse me. Jeez. I have to cut that out later.